Massive stone blocks, hundreds of tons, cut with precision that modern engineers struggle to replicate. They sit on hilltops, valley floors, and cliff sides across every continent, built thousands of years before metal tools, before the wheel, before written records. Now, who moved them? How did they fit them so tight a razor blade won't slip between joints? What did these ancient builders know that we've forgotten? 12 platforms, 12 engineering miracles, stone monuments that shouldn't exist with prehistoric technology. This is what happens when you follow the evidence where mainstream history refuses to go. Number 1, Baalbek, Lebanon, 1964. Beirut lies 65 kilometers to the west. The Bekaa Valley stretches below at 1,170 meters elevation. German Archaeological Institute researchers measure a stone block buried in the quarry 900 meters from the temple complex. They calculate the dimensions: 19.6 meters long, 6 meters wide, 5.5 meters high. The numbers don't make sense. They check again. The weight calculation comes back: 1,650 tons, the largest stone block ever carved from bedrock by human hands. It sits there in the quarry, partially buried, abandoned mid-project. 800 meters away, 3 stones called the trilithon form the foundation of what Romans later called the Temple of Jupiter. Each trilithon block measures 19 meters long, 4.2 meters high, 3.6 meters thick, 750 to 800 tons each. They rest 6 meters above ground level in the western wall, fitted so precisely that medieval travelers swore giants must have built them. Below them, supporting stones weigh 350 tons, 11 meters wide, 4 meters high. Mark Twain visited in 1877. He wrote that he'd seen steamboat hulls smaller than single stones at Baalbek. The precision haunted him. The walls were exact and shapely as brick buildings, he said, but these were not bricks. Pedro de Cieza de Leon, Spanish chronicler, arrived in 1549. He asked locals if the Incas built this. They laughed. These stones were here long before the Incas reigned, they told him. Nobody knows who placed them. The Romans built their temple complex here, starting in the 1st century AD under Emperor Augustus. But Roman construction techniques and stone sizes differ completely from the megalithic platform below. The platform stones are weathered differently, eroded by millennia the Roman stones haven't experienced. Jean-Pierre Adam published his study in 1977. He calculated that moving the largest blocks would require 512 workers using capstans and rollers. But capstans and rollers leave traces in the archaeological record. No such evidence exists at Baalbek. The terrain between quarry and temple is rough, steep inclines. The route crosses the Litani River. Modern heavy-lift cranes rated for 1,000 tons require extensive ground preparation, stabilization systems, and multiple units working in coordination. The trilithon blocks sit in the wall with gaps so tight that researchers in 1996 from Linz, Austria, couldn't insert a probe. UNESCO designated the site World Heritage status in 1984. Excavations continue. The mystery deepens with each season. If you value documented megalithic engineering and ancient construction history like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script is researched and factual, using sources from the German Archaeological Institute's ongoing excavation, reports published through Cambridge Archaeological Journal, and peer-reviewed analysis from the Journal of Archaeological Science, dating methodologies for pre-Roman construction phases, verified through thermoluminescence dating of the mortar materials. The most recent findings appeared in the November 2024 issue of Near Eastern Archaeology, examining quarry tool marks and extraction sequences. Now back to the information. Number 2, Pumapunku, Bolivia, 3,900 meters above sea level. Lake Titicaca lies 10 kilometers to the northwest. Construction began after AD 536, according to radiocarbon dating of organic materials in the mortar. The Tiwanaku civilization built it, mainstream archaeology says, but the evidence tells a stranger story. The Plataforma Litica on the eastern side contains the largest blocks, red sandstone, quarried 10 kilometers away across difficult terrain. The heaviest block measures 7.81 meters long, 5.17 meters wide, 1.07 meters thick, 131 metric tons. The second largest runs 7.9 meters long, 2.5 meters wide, 1.86 meters thick, 85 metric tons. Spanish conquistador Pedro de Cieza de Leon visited the Altiplano in 1549. He asked natives about the ruins. They told him these structures predated the Incas. The builders were unknown. The engineering is what stops researchers cold. The so-called H-blocks, interlocking stones with approximately 80 faces each. The faces match with precision measured in fractions of millimeters. The blocks show drill holes uniform in diameter and depth, channels cut with walls that aren't parallel, creating dovetail joints like modern cabinetry uses. The angles are perfect. 90-degree corners measured with laser instruments show deviation under 0.1 degrees. Jean-Pierre Protzen from Berkeley and Stella Nair conducted microscopy studies in 1997. They published in the Journal of the Society of Architectural Historians. They found tool marks suggesting stone hammers and chisels, but replicating a single small section of carving took 40 hours with trial and error. An experienced person might complete it in 25 hours, they estimated. That's for 20 centimeters of carving on soft stone. The Puma Punku blocks are andesite, volcanic rock measuring 7 on the Mohs hardness scale, harder than steel. A different study from 2018 analyzed samples from the site. Joseph Davidovits, Louis Hwaman, and Ralph Davidovits published their findings in Materials Letters. They found organic matter inside the andesite blocks. Volcanic rock doesn't contain organic material. The chemical signature suggested geopolymer concrete, an ancient form of cast stone. If confirmed, this means the blocks weren't carved but poured into molds. That technology supposedly didn't exist until the 1800s. The site sits at an elevation where trees don't grow, no timber for rollers. The atmospheric pressure at 3,900 meters is 62% of sea level. Human work capacity drops by 30 to 40%. Moving 130-ton blocks uphill in thin air with copper and stone tools challenges every conventional explanation. The precision cutting, the interlocking geometry, the standardized measurements across dozens of blocks all point to sophisticated engineering knowledge. The Tiwanaku culture flourished from AD 500 to 1000. Then they vanished. Drought likely scattered the population. But the stones remained, fitted together like a three-dimensional puzzle no modern mason has successfully replicated. Number 3, Ollantaytambo, Peru. 75 kilometers northwest of Cusco, 2,792 meters above sea level. The Sacred Valley stretches below. The Temple of the Sun rises on the hillside. 6 massive monoliths stand in a row at the top, never finished. Each block is pink granite. The stones weigh up to 70 tons. They fit together with gaps so tight that paper cannot pass between them. The surfaces show scoop marks, strange depressions, suggesting the rock was somehow softened before shaping. The granite came from Chachikata Quarry, 4 miles away, across the valley on the opposite mountainside. The route crosses the Urubamba River and climbs 800 vertical meters. Mainstream archaeology credits the Inca Emperor Pachacuti, who ruled from 1438 to 1471, but evidence suggests otherwise. Spanish chronicles describe Inca attempts to repair and modify the megalithic structures. The repairs are obvious. Small, rough stones mortared between precisely cut blocks. The original builders fitted stones with complex three-dimensional joints. Some blocks have internal grooves, channels carved into faces that mate with corresponding protrusions on adjacent stones. The Temple of the Condor shows another mystery. Enormous andesite slabs removed from the living bedrock. The extraction cuts are clean, almost polished. No tool marks from hammers or chisels. The removed sections fit perfectly into prepared recesses in the bedrock. At the wall of the 6 monoliths, vertical joints run the full height of the stones. The blocks present knobs, protrusions left on the surface. These knobs appear on megalithic sites in Egypt, Lebanon, Japan, and throughout the Mediterranean. Archaeologists call them bosses. Their purpose remains debated. Lifting points, aesthetic choice, unfinished work. Excavations in 2019 found wooden rollers under one abandoned stone. The timber shows tool marks consistent with bronze implements. But wooden rollers can't explain moving 70-ton blocks up a 45-degree slope across a river. Modern engineers calculate that transporting one stone would require several thousand people, extensive ramp systems, and favorable terrain. The route from Chachikata to Ollantaytambo has none of these conditions. The blocks also show evidence of secondary shaping after placement. Adjustments made while the stone was already in the wall. This suggests builders had methods for fine-tuning massive blocks in situ. Techniques we don't understand. The Kilke culture occupied the area from about 900 AD. Archaeological evidence shows they built structures on the site before the Incas arrived. But the megalithic platform predates the Kilke settlements. Pottery shards found beneath the platform date to earlier periods. Carbon dating of organic material and mortar gives dates between 3000 and 1500 BC, but these dates conflict with conventional Inca chronology. The mystery persists. Perfect cuts, impossible transport, engineering that exceeds what Bronze Age tools should accomplish. Number 4, Sacsayhuaman, Peru, 3,701 meters above sea level, 2 kilometers north of Cusco. The fortress crowns the hill of Carmenca. 3 parallel walls zigzag for 400 meters. They rise 18 meters high across 3 terraces. The stones weigh between 90 and 125 tons. The largest block measures 9 meters high, 5 meters wide, 4 meters thick. 125 tons of limestone fitted into a wall with joints so precise that paper won't fit. The zigzag pattern represents the teeth of a puma. Cusco itself was planned in the shape of a puma. Sacsayhuaman forms the head. The Temple of the Sun forms the heart. This wasn't random construction. This was urban planning on a massive scale, executed with mathematical precision. Spanish conquistadors reached Cusco in 1533. Pedro Pizarro described what he saw. On top of a hill, the Incas had built a fort with massive stones. Some stones so large that human hands couldn't possibly have placed them. The stones fit so tight that a pin couldn't penetrate the joints. He saw storerooms filled with weapons, shields, clubs, arrows. He described 3 towers at the summit. Only foundation stones remain of those towers now. Mainstream archaeology attributes construction to Inca Emperor Pachacuti and his successors between 1438 and 1500 AD. They say 20,000 workers labored for a century, but the evidence suggests multiple construction phases. The megalithic blocks show different weathering patterns from smaller Inca stones. The fitting techniques differ. The Inca built with roughly rectangular blocks using mortar. The megalithic walls use irregularly shaped stones with complex interlocking joints and zero mortar. The blocks have rounded edges, interlocking shapes, and a variety of angles. The precision is unmatched in the Americas. Engineers from MIT studied the site in 2015. They found that the blocks lean inward and the rounded corners distribute seismic forces. The design makes the walls earthquake resistant. Cusco has experienced massive earthquakes. Colonial Spanish buildings collapsed. The megalithic walls at Sacsayhuaman stood firm. John Macaulay published research in ancient origins in 2014. He reviewed transport methods. He concluded lighter stones were dragged over prepared soil beds. Heavier stones traveled on timber sleds. His model testing suggested 1,000 men could move the largest stones. But that assumes ideal conditions: flat terrain, unlimited timber, coordinated labor, sustained effort over decades. The blocks had to be quarried first. Limestone can be worked with stone tools, but shaping irregular 3-dimensional forms that fit together requires surveying and geometry. Each block has a unique shape that interlocks with specific adjacent blocks. No 2 stones are identical. The builders didn't use standardized blocks. They custom fitted each piece. That implies master masons, detailed plans, and sophisticated measurement systems. The wall survived the siege of Cusco in 1537 when Manco Inca resisted Spanish conquest. The fortress held. Spanish forces couldn't breach the walls. After the siege, Spaniards used Sacsayhuaman as a quarry. They dismantled much of the complex for building stone. What remains today is perhaps 40% of the original structure. The megalithic blocks were too large to move, so they survived. UNESCO listed Cusco and Sacsayhuaman as World Heritage Sites in 1983. The mystery of construction methods remains unsolved. Number 5. Göbekli Tepe, Turkey. 760 meters above sea level, 15 meters high, 300 meters in diameter. Southeastern Anatolia region, 12 kilometers northeast of Sanliurfa. Layer 3 dates to the 10th millennium BC. That's 11,600 years ago, before pottery, before metal tools, before agriculture, before the wheel. Before humans supposedly organized into societies complex enough to build monuments. Chicago and Istanbul archaeologists surveyed the site in 1963. They saw carved stones on the surface and dismissed it as a Byzantine cemetery. Klaus Schmidt from the German Archaeological Institute visited in 1994. He recognized the flint tools scattered across the hill. He saw the limestone slabs weren't gravestones. He started excavations in 1995. What emerged changed everything about our understanding of prehistory. Circular enclosures, T-shaped pillars, massive stones carved with animals, foxes, lions, boars, bulls, snakes, scorpions, cranes. The pillars are limestone, cut from bedrock quarries within 500 meters of the structures. The T-shape represents abstracted human forms. Some pillars show arms, hands, belts, loincloths carved in low relief. The central pair in enclosure D measure 5.5 meters high. They weigh 8 to 10 metric tons each. Surrounding pillars reach 4 meters. The largest unfinished pillar still in the quarry measures 7 meters long, weight estimated at 50 metric tons. Geomagnetic surveys reveal more than 40 stone circles across the site. 20 have been partially excavated, over 200 pillars identified. Each pillar took quarry workers weeks or months to create using flint picks. They dug channels into the limestone following natural fault lines. When they reached the fault, they used wooden beams and wedges to lever the pillar out. Several pillars broke during extraction and were abandoned in the quarries. The transport distance from quarry to structure ranged from 100 to 500 meters. Ethnographic evidence from Indonesia provides comparison. In 1917, researchers recorded that 525 men hauled a 4 cubic meter megalith 3 kilometers in 3 days using wooden sledges. The Göbekli Tepe pillars are larger and the terrain steeper. Estimates suggest 500 people minimum to transport and erect each large pillar. Schmidt argued that this required organized labor, social stratification, and religious authority. Hunter-gatherers supposedly didn't have these. The site predates permanent settlements, no domestic structures, no trash pits, no hearths. This was purely ceremonial space. The implications shake conventional archaeology. The standard narrative says agriculture came first, enabling population density, which led to settlements, which created hierarchies, which eventually produced monumental architecture. Göbekli Tepe reverses that sequence. Organized religion came first, Monument building drove social organization, communities gathered for ritual, and that cooperation created the social structures needed for agriculture. Professor Gil Hockley from Tel Aviv University published analysis in Cambridge Archaeological Journal in 2020. Using computer algorithms, he found geometric patterns underlying the site layout. The circles were planned as a unified structure. Geometric ratios govern the spacing. This shows architectural planning, abstract thought, mathematical knowledge, all 11,600 years ago. The site was deliberately buried around 8,000 BC, backfilled with rubble. The enclosures were covered, entombed, preserved. Nobody knows why. Climate change, cultural shift, religious transformation. The stones remained hidden for 10 millennia. The animals carved on pillars may represent constellations. Martin Sweatman from Edinburgh University published controversial findings in Mediterranean archaeology and archaeometry in 17. He argues that Pillar 43 depicts a date, 10,950 BC, a comet impact, the Younger Dryas event. If true, this represents the oldest known astronomical record and the oldest carved date in history. The claim remains disputed. Excavation continues. Most of the site is still buried. What's visible represents perhaps 10% of the complex. Every season brings new discoveries. The mystery deepens. Number 6, Stonehenge, England, Salisbury Plain, Wiltshire, 2 miles west of Amesbury, longitude minus 1.826, latitude 51.179, 100 meters above sea level. The site we see today is the result of multiple construction phases spanning 1,500 years. But it's the stones themselves that challenge explanation. 30 sarsen stones form the outer circle. Each weighs approximately 25 tons, 13 feet high, 7 feet wide. Gray sandstone, hard as granite. They came from Marlborough Downs, 20 miles north. The builders carved mortise and tenon joints connecting vertical stones to horizontal lintels. Curved lintels form a perfect circle. The curvature required precise calculation and expert stonework. Inside the sarsen circle stand the blue stones, smaller, about 4 tons each. The geology is specific, dolerite, an igneous rock. The source has been pinpointed, Priestley Hills in Wales, 150 miles away. Richard Bevins and Rob Ixer published their findings in Journal of Archaeological Science in 2019. They traced specific bluestone types to Carn Godog and Craig Rose Eifelin quarries in Pembrokeshire. Excavations at these quarries found evidence of Neolithic stoneworking. Quarry faces show where stones were extracted. Dating evidence puts the quarrying at 3,400 BC, roughly matching Stonehenge construction phases. Transport remains the puzzle. Overland route crosses rough terrain, rivers, and marshland. An experiment in 1995 tested sledge transport. 130 people pulled a concrete slab weighing 40 tons. They moved it 18 miles over 12 days. But this was on prepared modern ground. Neolithic terrain was forest, swamp, rivers without bridges. Recent research suggests a partially glacial origin. Some geologists argue that Irish Sea Glacier transported bluestones from Wales towards Salisbury Plain during ice ages. Humans then moved them the final distance. But no glacial erratic deposits exist on the Salisbury Plain from that particular glacier, and the quarry evidence shows deliberate extraction, not collection of loose boulders. The trilithons are most impressive. 5 sets of 3 stones, 2 uprights supporting a lintel. The largest trilithon stood at the southwest. Its upright measured 24 feet above ground. Weight 50 tons. It fell in the 17th century during a storm. The precision joinery rivals medieval cathedral work. Every upright has a protruding tenon on top. Every lintel has corresponding mortise holes underneath. The stones lock together. The lintels of the outer circle also connect to each other using tongue and groove joints on their sides. This creates a continuous ring of stone. That level of sophisticated carpentry techniques in stone is unprecedented for the Neolithic period. Mike Parker Pearson from University College London directed the Stonehenge Riverside project from 2003 to 2009. His team's findings pushed back construction dates. The ditch and bank earthwork date to 3000 BC. The bluestones were erected around 2900 BC. The sarsen circle went up around 2600 BC. Cremated human remains found at the site number over 50 individuals. Radiocarbon dating spans centuries, suggesting Stonehenge functioned as a cemetery. Isotope analysis of teeth and bones shows some individuals came from Wales, others from Scotland, some local. Stonehenge was a gathering place. The purpose remains unclear. Astronomical observatory, healing temple, ancestor shrine, cemetery for elite, all of these? The summer solstice sunrise aligns with the heel stone through the center of the monument. This alignment is precise, not accidental. The winter solstice sunset aligns along the same axis. These facts suggest astronomical knowledge and careful positioning. Parker Pearson's team found evidence of feasting, pig bones in massive quantities. Carbon and nitrogen isotopes suggest the pigs were raised elsewhere and brought to Stonehenge for seasonal gatherings. The scale suggests thousands of people. The social organization required to quarry, transport, and erect the stones implies centralized authority, specialized labor, and sustained effort across generations. In 1964, a stone fell. Restoration work followed. Modern cranes lifted the stones. Engineers noted the extreme difficulty even with hydraulics and steel cables. The stones are tapered. The buried portion extends several feet underground. The shapes are irregular. Precise calculation is needed for balance. Neolithic builders achieved this with rope, timber, and muscle power. The mystery remains despite centuries of study. Number 7. Gantija, Malta, island of Gozo, 7 kilometers northwest of Victoria, 54 meters above sea level. The name means Giant's Tower in Maltese. Local folklore insisted only giants could have built these structures. 2 temples stand side by side within a massive enclosure wall. The southern temple is oldest, dating to 3600 BC. The northern temple came later, no later than 2200 BC. These are among the oldest freestanding stone structures on Earth. Older than Stonehenge by 1,000 years, older than the Egyptian pyramids by 600 years. The temples use coralline limestone and Globigerina limestone. The stones aren't dressed uniformly. Some are massive boulders, some are carefully shaped blocks. The largest blocks exceed 5 meters in length, weighed up to 50 tons. The enclosure wall surrounding both temples is 5.5 meters high in places. The wall uses megalithic construction, huge stones with smaller stones filling gaps. The engineering shows sophisticated understanding. The temples face southeast. The entrance in the southern temple is a trilithon construction. 2 upright stones support a massive horizontal lintel. The interior features a series of apses branching off a central corridor. The floor plan resembles a cloverleaf or trefoil. Each apse contained altars. The builders used megalithic slabs to create curved walls. They shaped the stones to follow smooth arcs. The precision required advanced surveying and geometry. Excavations by John Otto Beyer in 1827 yielded animal bones, pottery, and stone tools. No metal, only stone and flint. The quarries haven't been definitively located. Coralline limestone outcrops locally, but transporting 50-ton blocks across Gozo's hilly terrain without wheels or metal tools presents the same problems as every megalithic site. Mainstream archaeology attributes construction to the temple culture, a Neolithic society that flourished on Malta from 3600 to 2500 BC. Then they vanished. The culture disappeared abruptly around 2500 BC. No written records explain why. Climate change, famine, invasion. The pottery and artifacts suggest this wasn't primitive society. The temple culture had sophisticated artistic traditions. They carved figurines of obese female figures, possibly fertility symbols. The famous sleeping lady figure comes from the Hippogym, another megalithic site on Malta. The Gantija temples show understanding of acoustics. Sound reverberates in the apses. Some researchers suggest ritual chanting or music played a role. The temples align with solstices and equinoxes. The southern temple's entrance faces the winter solstice sunrise. This astronomical orientation appears in multiple Maltese temples. It suggests knowledge of celestial cycles and calendars. UNESCO listed the Gantija temples as World Heritage Sites in 1980. In 1992, UNESCO extended the listing to include 5 other Maltese megalithic sites. The temples face ongoing conservation challenges. Weathering erodes the soft Globigerina limestone. Protective shelters now cover some structures. The mystery of construction persists. How did Neolithic farmers move 50-ton stones? Where did they quarry them? How did they achieve the curved walls and precise alignments? No conventional explanation answers these questions satisfactorily. Number 8. Hagar Kim, Malta. Southern edge of Malta Island, on a ridge overlooking the sea, 2 kilometers from the villages of Krendi and Sigiewi, 144 meters above sea level. Construction dates between 3600 and 3200 BC. The complex consists of a main temple and 3 additional structures. The facade contains the largest stone used in Maltese megalithic architecture. The upright menhir stands 5.2 meters high. It weighs 57 tons. Globigerina limestone, soft, workable stone, but still massive. The engineers couldn't have moved it without sophisticated methods. The temple follows the classic Maltese plan, forecourt and facade. Trilithon entrance, central passage connecting oval chambers. Semicircular apses branch off the passage. The temple's design shows modification during construction. The northwest apse was replaced by 4 independent enclosures. This suggests changing needs or evolving religious practices. The stonework varies. Some blocks are megalithic, others are smaller, more manageable. The doorways use 2 construction types. Trilithon doorways with 2 uprights and a lintel, and porthole doorways where the opening is cut through a single megalith. Porthole doorways appear across Mediterranean cultures. Their purpose remains debated. Were they practical? Symbolic? The temple was originally roofed, corbelled roofing, where each stone course projects inward until the gap is narrow enough to span with a single capstone. Fragments of corbelling remain. Interior altars show evidence of fire. Animal bones suggest sacrifice. Pottery shards indicate offerings. The temple functioned as a religious center. Antonio Caruana excavated in 1885. He published detailed plans. Themistocles Zamet and Thomas Peat conducted further excavations in 1909. They found numerous artifacts, stone tools, pottery, animal figurines, the famous Fat Lady statuettes. The temple aligns with the equinoxes. The entrance faces southeast. At dawn on the spring and autumn equinoxes, sunlight floods through the entrance into the central chamber. This astronomical precision appears in multiple Maltese temples. It shows intentional design. The builders understood solar cycles. They incorporated this knowledge into temple architecture. The site commands views over the Mediterranean. To the west, open sea. To the east, fertile plains. The location is strategic, visible from distance, accessible but elevated. Erosion has affected the outer southern wall. The orthostats face sea winds. Over millennia, the limestone has weathered severely. Surface flaking threatens structural integrity. UNESCO protection came in 1992. Protective shelters were constructed in 2008. The shelters slowed deterioration, but changed the visual experience. The mystery remains. 57-ton stones moved by Neolithic farmers using stone tools. How? Number 9. Tarxian Temples, Malta. Southern Malta, 2 kilometers from Grand Harbor, built between 3250 and 3000 BC. 4 connected structures. The South Temple contains remains of a colossal statue, the oldest monumental figure in Mediterranean. Prehistory. Stone rollers found during excavations provide direct evidence of transport methods. Limestone spheres, 30 centimeters in diameter. The blocks measure 3 meters by 1 meter, weight several tons each. The spiral decorations follow precise logarithmic curves. Mathematical sophistication. The temples align with solstices and equinoxes. Themistocles Zamet excavated from 1915 to 1919. UNESCO listed the site in 1992. Number 10. Nan Madol, Micronesia, Pohnpei Island, built on a coral reef. 99 artificial islands constructed from basalt columns. The largest stones weigh 50 tons. Total volume exceeds 750,000 metric tons. The basalt came from mainland quarries. Transport crossed water, no wheels, no metal, no cranes. The construction technique stacks alternating horizontal and vertical logs. Walls rise over 10 meters. Nan Madol served as the Sodler dynasty's ceremonial seat. Oral tradition says sorcery moved the stones. When Spanish explorers arrived in the 1600s, the city was abandoned. UNESCO listed it in 2016 as World Heritage in Danger. Number 12, Yangshan Quarry, China, Nanjing, Jiangsu Province. The Ming Dynasty's emperor ordered a monument. The Hongwu Emperor. He ruled from 1368 to 1398. He wanted a stele larger than any before. The quarry workers started cutting. They carved 3 pieces from bedrock: the base, the body, the head. The base block measures 30.35 meters long, 13 meters wide, 4.40 meters thick. Weight 16,000 tons. The largest dressed stone in history. The body block is 49.4 meters long, 10.7 meters wide, 4.4 meters thick. Weight 8,600 tons. The head block is 10.7 meters long, 20.3 meters wide, 8.4 meters thick. Weight 6,270 tons. Combined weight over 30,000 tons. The workers abandoned the project. The stones remain in the quarry today. The emperor died. His successor canceled the monument, or maybe they realized the stones couldn't be moved. The quarry is 2 kilometers from the Yangtze River. The route is uphill. The terrain is rough. No technology in 1398 could transport 16,000-ton blocks. Not even close. Modern heavy-lift ships have capacities measured in thousands of tons. Moving 30,000 tons requires specialized equipment that didn't exist until the 20th century. The emperor's ambition exceeded his empire's capability, or did it? Some researchers question the conventional chronology. They note that massive stone transport occurred elsewhere without explanation. Maybe China had forgotten technology. Maybe the original plan included methods we don't understand. The stones sit there, proof of what humans attempted, or proof of what they achieved elsewhere and failed to repeat here. The mystery is what they thought was possible. The stone has tool marks, wedge holes where workers inserted wooden wedges and poured water to split the rock. This technique appears in ancient quarries worldwide. It works, but slowly. Preparing these 3 stones would take decades, thousands of workers, rotating shifts. The logistics are staggering. And then the transport problem remains, which brings us back to every site. Baalbek, Pumapunku, Ollantaytambo, Sacsayhuaman. The pattern repeats. Massive stones, precision fitting, conventional tools inadequate, transport methods unexplained. Mainstream archaeology says patience, labor, and simple technology. The evidence says otherwise. The evidence demands another look. In 1998, researchers from the University of Exeter proposed a solution for Stonehenge. Stone balls, wooden planks, groove tracks. They tested it with smaller stones. It worked in principle. Scale up to 25 tons and problems multiply. The forces involved, the friction, the breakage rate. Wooden rollers crush, ropes snap. The experiment proved feasibility, not probability. Every megalithic site shares common elements. Precise three-dimensional fitting. Irregular shapes that interlock. Minimal or zero mortar. Stones too heavy for available technology. Astronomical alignments showing sophisticated knowledge. These commonalities suggest shared knowledge. Not aliens, not lost civilizations. But maybe we underestimate Stone Age and Bronze Age capabilities. Maybe ancient people understood leverage, balance, and material properties better than we credit. The MIT demonstration in 2019 moved 25-ton concrete blocks with 2 people. Brandon Clifford's team used pivot points and balance. The blocks walked. They rocked. They moved with minimal force. The technique works for rectangular blocks with precise center of gravity calculations. But does it scale to irregular shaped stones? Does it work uphill? Across rivers? The demonstration proves ancient humans weren't stupid. They were ingenious. They solved problems creatively. But some problems remain unexplained. The Baalbek Trilithon, 800 tons, 6 meters above ground, in a wall. The stones below it weigh 350 tons. The supporting structure had to exist before the trilithon was placed. That means the 800-ton blocks were lifted at least 6 meters. Bronze Age technology. No cranes, no hydraulics. The mathematics of leverage say you need enormous counterweights and fulcrum distances. Where's the evidence? Pumapunku's geopolymer hypothesis offers an alternative. If the blocks were cast, not carved, many problems disappear. The precision becomes easier. The weight is still a challenge, but moldable stone poured in sections could be managed. The chemical analysis shows organic compounds in volcanic rock. That shouldn't occur naturally. If geopolymer concrete was used, the technology was lost. The Romans used concrete. It wasn't lost. But specialized stone casting techniques possibly were. Ancient builders may have developed regional innovations that died with their cultures. The pattern breaks down with some sites. Göbekli Tepe clearly shows carving. The quarries contain unfinished pillars. The tool marks are visible, flint picks and stone hammers. The builders definitely carved those T-pillars, 11,600 years ago, with stone tools, and yet they succeeded. The Malta temples also show clear quarrying and carving. The techniques are documented. Stone tools, patience, enormous labor. It's possible, it's just difficult. Maybe that's the answer. Ancient people devoted resources we can't imagine. Modern society builds skyscrapers and bridges. We commit resources to these projects. Ancient societies committed resources to sacred architecture. The scale of effort was comparable, the technology different, the determination equal. Göbekli Tepe required 500 people. Sustained effort, decades or centuries. But 500 people is feasible. Many Neolithic communities had populations in the thousands. If the site had religious significance, mobilizing 500 workers is possible. Stonehenge shows sustained effort across 1,500 years, multiple building phases, different generations completing the work. The society valued this enough to maintain the project across 50 generations. That kind of continuity requires stable culture, shared purpose, and sophisticated organization. The mystery is less about how they moved the stones. The mystery is why they cared enough to try. What motivated Bronze Age people to quarry, transport, and erect 25-ton blocks? What did these structures mean? Were they temples, observatories, ancestor memorials, political statements, all of these? The engineering is impressive. The social organization behind it is more impressive. These weren't primitive tribes. These were complex societies with hierarchies, specialization, and shared beliefs. The stones prove it. Every megalithic site required planning. You don't casually decide to move 100-ton blocks. You need surveyors to locate the stone, quarry workers to extract it, engineers to design the transport, labor forces to move it, builders to place it. This implies classes of specialists. It implies authority structures to coordinate the work. It implies economic surplus to feed all these people while they work on projects that don't produce food. The conventional narrative of human development shows a progression. Hunter-gatherers became farmers. Farmers created surpluses. Surpluses enabled settlements. Settlements grew into cities. Cities developed hierarchies. Hierarchies built monuments. That's the standard sequence. Göbekli Tepe breaks it. Hunter-gatherers built monuments first. The monuments may have driven settlement. The need to return to Göbekli Tepe for ceremonies may have encouraged nearby habitation. Sedentary life may have begun because of religious sites, not agricultural surplus. This inversion of the standard model creates problems for archaeology. It suggests religion and ritual came before economics and agriculture. That challenges materialist explanations of civilization. It opens space for ideas about consciousness, spirituality, and meaning-making as drivers of human development. The stones don't answer these questions. They just pose them. 12 platforms, 12 engineering challenges, 12 mysteries. The answers aren't aliens or lost Atlanteans. The answers lie in understanding ancient human capability better. Stone Age people weren't less intelligent. They just had different knowledge, different priorities, different solutions to problems. The precision of Puma Punku suggests knowledge of geometry and measurement. The astronomical alignments show understanding of celestial mechanics. The transport methods, whatever they were, show understanding of physics and leverage. This knowledge existed. It was real. It produced results. Then it was lost. Or maybe not lost, maybe forgotten, maybe replaced by different approaches. Bronze Age engineering used one set of solutions, Iron Age another, Industrial Age another. Each technological revolution obsoletes previous methods. We've lost carpentry techniques from medieval Europe. We've lost Roman concrete recipes. We've lost Damascus steel methods. Knowledge disappears when it's not written down and when it's not taught to the next generation. Megalithic construction knowledge disappeared because metal tools replaced stone. Wheeled vehicles replaced sledges. Cranes replaced levers. The new methods were easier. The old knowledge became unnecessary. Except the old knowledge worked. It built structures that lasted millennia. The blocks at Sacsayhuaman survived earthquakes that destroyed Spanish cathedrals. The precision at Baalbek exceeds modern construction tolerances. These weren't primitive attempts. These were sophisticated solutions. Understanding them requires respecting the intelligence of ancient builders. They solved problems we struggle with using modern equipment. They didn't have our technology. They had different technology. Different doesn't mean inferior. The stones prove it. In 2014, the German Archaeological Institute announced the discovery at Baalbek, the third monolith, partially buried. 19.6 meters long, weight 1,650 tons, the largest stone block ever carved. It sits in the quarry, never moved. Or maybe it was moved and they gave up partway. The route from quarry to temple is 900 meters, uphill, rough terrain. Moving 1,650 tons, that distance exceeds anything documented in ancient or modern engineering, unless they had methods we don't understand, unless the forgotten technology was real. The trilithon blocks that did reach the temple weigh 800 tons. Those were transported and placed. If 800 tons succeeded, maybe 1,650 tons was attempted. Maybe they had confidence based on previous success. Maybe they failed. Maybe that's why the stone remains. But maybe they didn't fail. Maybe they stopped for different reasons. Political upheaval, economic collapse, religious transformation, war, famine. Many projects were abandoned mid-construction. Ollantaytambo's Temple of the Sun stands unfinished. Puma Punku was abandoned. The Yangshan quarry blocks never moved. History is full of abandoned monuments, not because the work was impossible, because circumstances changed. The mystery persists because we don't have written records. The builders didn't leave instruction manuals. They didn't document their methods. We're left with the results. The stones themselves. Baalbek's trilithon fitted tight at 800 tons. Puma Punku's H blocks with 80 faces. Ollantaytambo's scoop marks in granite. Sacsayhuaman's earthquake-proof walls. Göbekli Tepe's 11,600-year-old carvings. Malta's 57-ton facade stone. Nan Madol's basalt columns across water. The Yangshan blocks that defeated a Chinese emperor. Each site tells the same story. Ancient humans achieved what we consider impossible. Not with magic, with knowledge, with determination, with coordinated effort sustained across lifetimes. The stones stand as proof. Not of aliens, not of lost civilizations, of human capability, of what's possible when people care enough to attempt the impossible. And that might be the real mystery. What made them care? What belief system justified the enormous investment? What did these structures mean? The answers are lost. The stones remain, 12 platforms that shouldn't exist, built by people who found a way. The question isn't whether they could do it. The evidence proves they did. The question is how and why, and what that tells us about human potential. The stones don't answer. They just stand there, silent, massive, precise. It's impossible, real,